Hey there, guys, and welcome back to the Travis Damian Podcast, episode 68. We're available on anchor.fm/Travis Damian Podcast, along with Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. If you guys would like to ask us any questions, you can leave a voice message at the Anchor link or in the YouTube comment section. Today, we're going to be talking about industry news, including the Pokémon Presents event and Marvel Cinematic Universe news. Then we'll go into our recent activities in gaming, anime, and movies. Next, our thoughts on Beastars Season 2. Afterwards, our thoughts on Marvel What If's first two episodes. Lastly, our review of The Suicide Squad by James Gunn. So, first piece of news is that Life is Strange Remastered Collection has been delayed to 2022, but I believe they are also giving us a little bit of extra content for Life is Strange 3 True Colors, I believe. So,
Yeah, I know they're doing another like bonus episode with one of the characters, right? And like the True Colors.
Yeah, so I believe the official announcement, they announced Life is Strange Wavelengths, which is a DLC piece starring Steph. So, and that will be released at the end of September 30th, and True Colors is still coming out September 10th, while the remastered is coming out 2022, which is not that big of a deal for me personally. Obviously, I think that for us in particular, we are huge Life is Strange fans, and just playing the new game is probably the most important part, and the remasters obviously come second. And since school's starting up, I'm probably not going to have a lot of time to play games, so, delaying some titles here and there is not too bad for me, but I'm glad that they are, realizing that they're not going to get this done in time properly, so they are just delaying it to make sure that it comes out as good as possible, because especially with remasters and remakes, I hate it when like it's buggy or there's like graphical glitches or something's like not consistent with it. So I'm glad that they are taking the proper direction and delaying it to early 2022.
Yeah, I'm also glad about that because they probably like deprioritized this so they could like focus more on like True Colors and making it like more polished, which is probably for the best. We want it to be as polished as possible. And as we both played Life is Strange 1, so I'm not that upset about it, especially because it's like a story-driven game, so I'm not like too insensitivized to like kind of like play this remaster. I might. But I'm not as like, if it's like an actual, like, I don't know, like an action game or something, like maybe because like the frame rates and stuff will actually matter. But for this, I'm like, I don't mind it being delayed. It kind of sucks for people that were hoping to get into the series, like by just buying like the ultra mega collection version of this game. Like, because I think if you buy True Colors for like $100, you got it too. But yeah, overall, I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's always good to delay a game, especially if it's not going to be as good. Especially like as you said, remasters usually get the short end of the stick in terms of quality. Like they usually like rush it out just so they can make a quick buck. So I'm glad they're deciding to put more effort and polish into the remasters, and we'll just get it later. So as long as it doesn't like affect True Colors, I'm pretty okay with this news.
Yeah, and I think that to those people that are wanting to get into the series, you're just gonna have to wait a little bit longer. And I'm sure that even if you start with Life is Strange True Colors, technically the third game within the series, it's probably not gonna be that strange. No pun intended there. It's not gonna be that weird just because it's new characters, a new setting. There's not a lot to sort of connect the titles together. There's probably going to be like Easter eggs and hints and references, but who knows exactly how much this game connects to the other ones until it actually comes out. So,
yeah, and again, I don't think the connections are going to be like that big. They're probably just going to be some little things here and there, but I believe you're able to play this game without really having to worry about the other ones, just because they want to sell more copies of the game as well, so they don't want people being confused. So yeah, you should be all good if anyone wants to jump into the Life is Strange series with this game. I'm pretty sure it'll be fine.
Yeah.
All right, so the next bit of news here, we got Sonic Colors Rise of the Wisp. So this is actually like an animation, and this is part one of it. And it's sort of like just doing like a nice little side story, or I guess a new story within like the Sonic Colors canon, I guess. This probably isn't going to have any like bearing on the actual like remasters of the games, because the remasters just look like they're just just upping the graphics or whatever. But it's just a nice little thing where you see Metal Sonic appears in it, and he's like sort of helping Eggman out with getting all the wisps and stuff, just like how the plot in the first game where Eggman just wants all the wisps to power up, like I forgot what he wanted to do. He wants to power up the amusement park, but it was like a laser or something. I can't really remember. But yeah,
Eggman doing bad stuff, that's pretty much it.
Eggman doing bad things, but Metal Sonic is there, and it's pretty cool. I kind of like the animation. I think the humor is very much like more like Sonic Boom, I guess. I didn't watch too much of the Sonic Boom cartoon, but that's what it kind of reminds me of, and it was pretty good. I really like the Cubot gag where his voice lines were just the Sonic Colors announcer guy. That was pretty good. But yeah, it was pretty cute. I liked it.
Yeah, I think that Sega, they obviously know that like Sonic is like their moneymaker and they know how dedicated the fan base is online. And with how successful the previous animations were, they see this as an opportunity to use these animations as like a way to promote whatever Sonic game's coming out. So this one is Sonic Colors Ultimate, which is coming out September 7th later this year. And yeah, I liked it. Like you said, the humor is definitely somewhat reminiscent of Sonic Boom, where it's very goofy, it's very gaggy. Obviously for older Sonic fans like ourselves and for us who haven't watched Sonic Boom, we're not probably used to this humor with Sonic as much, but it's cute, it's fun. I'm glad that Tyson Hess is still involved within the Sonic sort of animations because he knows how to do Sonic stuff. And, if it wasn't for his work within the Sonic movie, him redesigning that model and all of his other stuff that he's done within the Sonic the Hedgehog sort of series so far, I'm glad that he's still doing stuff, especially even if it is something as small as this, it is still cool to see his name, pop up as a director for this. But yeah, this is just part one. It's a cute little animation with the Sonic cast to sort of promote Sonic Colors Ultimate. But yeah, this is only part one. I'm not exactly sure when part two is coming out, but I'm pretty sure most of the Sonic community, as far as I could tell on Twitter, really like this because whenever something new Sonic comes out, I always see like screenshots of whatever that is of people, talking about it. So it's nice to see that this was received positively.
Yeah, because the Sonic fan base could be a little wild. So it's nice that they're pretty welcoming to this because I thought it was pretty good. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty harmless. There's not really much to mess up here.
Yeah.
Next bit of news we got is the Pokemon Presents. So I'm going to quickly talk about this and then hand it over to Damien because honestly, I watched this at like 2x speed because I'm like, most of these announcements are probably going to be whatever to me, which they were, Pokemon Go sort of updates, other Pokemon mobile game updates and whatnot. But the Diamond and Pearl remakes, because I was watching it at 2x speed, the whole like zoom in on like the boxes was like really jarring to me, and I'm sure it was still jarring like even playing it normally, but I'm like, why is this shit so zoomed in? But the Diamond and Pearl remakes still look great. The fact that they gave us a sort of like gameplay reel and then explained everything afterwards is what I like to see in most game presentations, especially when there's only two big games that they really discussed here. This one, which looks good, and then Pokemon Legends Arceus, which looks a lot better than we initially saw it back then when they announced it. It actually looks like a stable game somewhat. Visually, it is running on the Nintendo Switch, so I'm not expecting, godlike graphics or anything like that, but I hope that there's a plentiful enough of activities within this open world to really, justify that like $60 price point because, there's like towns and whatnot, but I wonder if there's like side activities or like other random stuff that you could do within like a normal like open world game because open world games have been around for so long. I wonder how Game Freak's going to take it with Pokemon. So
yeah, I mean, I basically agree with like everything you said. Like this was like one of the first few Pokemon Directs where I'm like actually kind of left pretty positively about it because if I heard my impressions when they first showed both of these games, I was kind of negative on both of them, but optimistic for Arceus. So let me just talk about the remakes first. Graphically, they still kind of look the same, like from the the last trailer they showed, and I think it looks fine. I still think it looks a little like flat a bit. Like some towns look really good. But when like he's like running around the forest and like the trees just look weird and stuff, it's kind of nitpicky, but I don't know. It's like Sun and Val still looks a little off to me, but it's all right. Some of the features they showed are mostly the same from Diamond and Pearl. I really like how they're expanding the underground. That used to be like my favorite thing to do as a kid. I would just spend down there and just mine diamonds and shit, even though it didn't really matter. Like I think you just got money from it. But it was always one of my favorite features from Diamond and Pearl, and I'm glad they're expanding upon that and the secret base where you have a secret base in your underground like zone where you can like place like decorations and stuff. It didn't really mean anything. It was also in Hoenn like Gen 3, but now it actually has a purpose where if you put certain statues of Pokemon, these little secret areas that you could go in will have different Pokemon depending on what statues you have. So like if you put like water Pokemon, I guess you get a higher chance of getting water Pokemon and stuff. And this is really useful for Gen 4 because Gen 4 basically has like no fire types. So if you get some like fire type statues and put it in your secret base and go into one of these like dungeon type areas, and you could be able to get a bunch of fire type Pokemon, which is really nice because I know that's an issue with Gen 4. I think only had like Rapidash and like Infernape, and that's it. I think I had like Magmar too or something. But yeah, that's a really great feature, and I'm looking forward to that. They also expand on the Pokemon contests, which are great too. I always really like Pokemon contests. And besides that, I don't think there's that much more new content. I'm hoping they put some stuff from Platinum into this game as well, like they did with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Because Rayquaza was still like a thing you could fight and had its own like sort of like post game story event. So I'm hoping Giratina also gets something like that, like sort of like a Platinum like replacement thing, I guess. But it didn't show anything about that, so it's kind of concerning that this game's gonna be like a really one-to-one remake, which is okay, but I feel like Diamond and Pearl could definitely go with some more improvements. Like they really didn't show anything about HMs either, because the battle speed and HMs are definitely the worst parts about Gen 4. Obviously they're fixing the battle speed because like it's on new hardware, so that's fine. But they didn't really show anything about like any HM usage or like how that would work. Like I'm hoping it works like the newer Pokemon games where you can access your box anytime you want, so you can just swap your HM slave in and out. That'll be fine. I would prefer the rental system like they did in Gen 7, but I don't know if that's gonna come back. But I don't know. I'm just gonna have to wait and see because HMs in Gen 4 are definitely a gigantic pain in the ass. So I'm hoping they do something to alleviate that. But besides that, it looks pretty good. I love Diamond and Pearl. I probably have more nostalgia for Gen 3, but Gen 4 I always have like a ton of nostalgia for. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it looks alright, and I'm gonna buy it anyway. So who am I kidding? So yeah, Legends Arceus is like definitely the more interesting one because it's like a whole new like different kind of Pokemon game. And the first trailer they showed back in the first direct where they showed this, it looked really rough. Like they weren't really doing anything. You saw the trainer did like a Dark Souls dodge, and that was cool. But you also had like a Chimchar going at like 5 FPS, which wasn't really cool. But it looks like they're fixing that. The frame rate looked a lot better. I didn't really notice any like weird stuttering or anything. Like it ran pretty good. Graphically, I think it looks okay. I see a lot of people memeing on it, but it's also like the Switch, and it's like really weak hardware. And I think for the most part, it looks pretty good. They put like a filter around everything that makes it look a little like sort of like old Japanese like feudal Japan looking, and that looks cool. I think. I wish it was more cel shaded, but whatever. You can't really get everything. And yeah, besides that, it looks cool. You have mounts. You can ride like the weird Stantler evolution, and like you can ride on Braviary and like swim and stuff. Like that looks really neat. And from the impression of game from this game, it looks less like Breath of the Wild and more like Pokemon Snap or Monster Hunter, but like you just like sort of just research the Pokemon. Like, you still fight things, but it's more about completing the Pokedex and like filling out like their like stuff, which is fine. I think that's a pretty okay way to do it. Like, at first I was disappointed because they're like, oh, it's just a Pokedex. I mean, that's kind of lame, but they kind of expanded the Pokedex in this game where if you do certain objectives, you get to fill out more of it, which I think is pretty neat. I mean, I'm hoping there's more to it as well. Like, I don't know if there's just one town in the center, if there's more towns, if there's trainer battle. Probably not trainer battles because this was before like people in Pokemon were friends or whatever. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how much stuff is in this open world, like you said. I'm hoping there's a decent amount of it. If it's just catching Pokemon, filling out a Pokedex, I feel like I'll get a little repetitive after a while. I'm hoping there's some dungeons or something. Like, I'm really interested to see how legendary fights would work. Like Arceus would probably have to be like an actual like boss fight or something because you have to like dodge roll like his attacks. I don't know how they're gonna do things, but it gets me very excited for the future of Pokemon. It's the most different I've seen Pokemon in a very long time. And at this point, this is all I can ask for. And I think it looks like a decent time. Like, I think they're really, the Game Freak feels like they're actually like trying this time. And yeah, I'm pretty excited for it. Hopefully it turns out okay, and they could go on from here with like being more free from its restraints from like just gym battles and stuff. So yeah, honestly I'm looking forward to it, and it was a pretty good direct. I'm gonna be honest, I really liked it.
Yeah, I think the biggest part about Legends Arceus that I'm interested in is like the battle system and like how you catch Pokemon, because like some Pokemon you can just straight up catch, which I'm like, oh okay, like that's cool, but some of them you actually like have to battle. And then the battle system is like you could do like the strong attack or like the light attack to sort of either weaken it or just one hit it, and depending on that the sort of flow of the battle changes. So like if you do like a light attack, you might be able to attack twice, and then if you do the strong attack, you could only attack once, and you see the action order on the right side of this screen, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I think that, like you said, this is like the most different Pokemon has been in a while. Despite me not playing a Pokemon game since like X and Y, I can definitely recognize that this one is trying a lot, and I'm sure that there's going to be some things that work, some things that don't. But I hope that, Game Freak are able to expand upon this sort of style of gameplay further beyond just this game. It's probably going to be successful financially either way because it's Pokemon. But I feel like that if it doesn't do well, like, I guess, critically, I hope that doesn't sway them away from doing this anymore, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I hope they keep improving on the open world formula for Pokemon, like maybe making more, like they probably are doing it in a more feudal Japan type setting because it's probably easier to make it more like bare bones where there's nothing really around because it's like so early in time. But I'd like to see a more modern Pokemon game, like a more modern setting where there's like cities everywhere. You could go to like any city any way you want. Like that would be really sick. Like that's always been my like dream Pokemon game. So I'm hoping they could do something like that in the future, honestly. And yeah, like you said with the battle system, I think that's also like a really neat feature. It doesn't feel too gimmicky either, like Mega Evolution or Z moves or Dynamaxing. It actually feels like something that could just stay within the game. Like I think the strong and agile style are like cool ways to mix up the combat, and having your turn order be always like on the side of your screen is very nice. You don't have to guess what Pokemon. I mean, you could probably tell anyway. Like at least I could tell. But for my casual people, I think having the turn order right there is very nice, and you could do really cool things like set up like things with like Swords Dance if you do like a agile style and then like attack with a full like boosted attack stat or whatever. Like I think that's really neat. So yeah, overall I'm looking really forward to it, and I'm a lot more excited for this game than I was when they first showed it because it was kind of yikes when they first showed it. So yeah.
Yeah, it definitely looks a lot better.
All right. So next bit, we got more Sonic news. About this was going around everywhere. Idris Elba, if I said that right, is going to be playing as Knuckles in the Sonic 2 movie. He just showed the fist of Knuckles and be like, well, I forgot what he exactly said.
He said knock knock on his tweet.
Yeah. And this was like memed everywhere. Like everyone just kept showing the stupid fist. So, and yeah, that's pretty neat. I mean, I don't have any like real strong opinion about it either way. Like I think him playing as Knuckles is totally fine. I'm curious to see what Knuckles actually like looks like. I mean, judging by his fist, like it looks like he's gonna go for the more, classic style, not the Sonic Boom style. I didn't expect that to return or anything, but I'm gonna be pretty interested to see what Knuckles' full design looks like in the movie because. After watching the Sonic movie, I thought Sonic's redesign looks pretty good, and I think Tails also looks pretty good at the end. Well, spoilers by the way, but I think Tails looks pretty good at the end of the Sonic 1 movie as well. So yeah, I think they could do a good job with Knuckles as well. I mean, what do you think about this casting choice?
I mean, I feel like most people knew that like Knuckles was like the black friend of the group, like no cap. Like I'm not not trying to, say anything like negatively here, but Knuckles being voiced by a black actor, especially Idris Elba, is very cool. And I think that, him as an actor, he has proven himself many times, not with just the Suicide Squad most recently, but when there was talks about like a James Bond, sort of have a black James Bond, he was definitely the highest contending actor within that sort of running. And I've seen him in other movies. I can't exactly remember on the top of my head, but he's always been consistent with everything that he does, and I am excited to see him take on this role and him be just goddamn Knuckles. And, if you know the goddamn Sonic lore, that Knuckles is probably going to be the bad guy for like the first half of the movie. And then he's going to join Sonic and Tails and going to stop Eggman. So we have an idea of what Knuckles will look like because of like the sort of like leaked, I guess, like props or whatever.
I guess so, yeah.
But like seeing the full CG Knuckles, I think that will be very, very hype and very exciting. If I had to guess when a trailer would drop, it would definitely drop either at the end of this year or whenever next year, just because I believe this movie's supposed to come out very early 2022. So him being in the Sonic 2 movie is exciting, and a lot of people were excited about this on Twitter, just from seeing the memes of Idris Elba with that one clip from him of Hot Ones where he's like fucking choking on the goddamn hot sauce. Yeah. What the fuck? Yep. That was definitely a great day when he was announced, because the Sonic community knows how to make funny memes and shit like that. So he is once again a very positive note for the Sonic community, welcoming him in, because I don't see anything wrong with this casting at all. So, yeah, very excited to see Idris Elba in Sonic 2.
Yeah.
All right, so next bit of news is Sony has now fully acquired Crunchyroll from AT&T. So, yeah, I mean, at this point, Sony kind of owns a good chunk of the anime streaming war when it comes to now they have Crunchyroll and Funimation, which is kind of crazy, which are probably arguably the two biggest anime-only streaming services.
Yeah.
And Crunchyroll probably being number one, if I had to guess. So yeah, I mean, this isn't like a monopoly sort of thing. Some people might think it is, but there's still people or still companies like Netflix, Amazon, and a couple of other small ones competing for the anime streaming stuff. And even just Amazon and Netflix, those two have really, really big titles. With Netflix, you have Evangelion, you have Beastars, you have some other series that they have
the
under
Castlevania
the belt.
one, don't you?
They do have Castlevania, so and then with Amazon they have some smaller niche ones. They have Vinland Saga, they have After the Rain, they have what's that goddamn?
They're not Made in Abyss as
yes,
well.
Made in Abyss was the one that I was trying to name. But they each one has their own sort of exclusive series, and with Sony now having Crunchyroll and Funimation, people are gonna wonder and ask, when are they gonna merge the two? Which I think only time will tell. They're probably thinking of ideas how they could do it seamlessly and streamline. So yeah, I mean, both services have sort of exclusives under their belt. So, whenever or if they ever sort of decide to come together, it's just going to be a win-win for Funimation and Crunchyroll users. But yeah, right now we don't know exactly what AT&T or should I say Sony is going to do with the acquisition from AT&T.
I kind of just hope they just fuse both together, but keep the UI from Crunchyroll, please. At least because I think the Crunchyroll website before looked like shit, but I think they updated it to make it look good. Like the mobile version of Crunchyroll always looked great, but Funimation always looked like shit. Like no matter which one you use, I never liked it. So I hope they merge it like that, and none of the exclusives really matter anymore. Like you just watch whatever you want. Obviously you're gonna still have exclusives from Netflix and Amazon. But I think I think the more casual people will either subscribe to mostly Crunchyroll, but I think Funimation was also up there because it has a lot of shonen stuff.
And also dub, because people like dub.
Yeah, there's a lot of dub stuff. So Crunchyroll they don't get the rights to a lot of dubs, I guess, because the Funimation I think has that. I think Jujutsu Kaisen, I think it was only subbed in Crunchyroll but dubbed in Funimation, no, I think it's only, I don't know. It's confusing. So I'm hoping all this goes away and just combine the two into just a joint thing where it doesn't really matter. And that's great because I know a lot of anime fans hate it. I mean, a lot of people hate all this in general, where everything is in all bunch of different streaming services and you can't watch everything in one thing. Having Funimation and Crunchyroll being in one app, I think will really alleviate a lot of that pain. So yeah, honestly, I think this is just a win-win for most people. I mean, honestly, corporate a corporate stuff buying other corporate stuff is kind of always weird to talk about because it's always kind of bad when someone has not a monopoly like you said, but more of a majority in anime than they should. But if they could just combine everything together, I think most users would be happy, and as long as they don't mess things up, I think it'll be fine.
Yeah, this is like when Disney acquired 20th Century Fox, and people were like, oh, the MCU's coming together, but shit, this is kind of yikes for movies and shit. But I think that most people are gonna be now that Funimation and Crunchyroll are merging, things like Yu Yu Hakusho, which was only on Funimation, can now be watchable on Crunchyroll, hopefully, maybe, because that is a fantastic shonen that I think a lot of people are missing out on. But yeah, I think that overall, this sort of move, only time will tell as to what they'll do, because right now everything has sort of stayed the same, other than the rights or the sort of name of Crunchyroll is now under Sony's belt. So yeah, we just got to wait and see as to what Sony wants to do with Funimation and Crunchyroll, and see how that affects the sort of total landscape. Because like you said, going from one app to another, it is kind of annoying to, have to go to Hulu just to watch Horimiya, and, go to Netflix to watch Beastars, etc., etc. So yeah, hopefully some things will be a little more streamlined, but jumping from different app to different site is probably going to be the norm still for a while.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's gonna go away, but hopefully this does alleviate more casual anime watching, I guess. Because I think Amazon and Netflix get more niche stuff, while Crunchyroll and Funimation had the more mainstream stuff. So if we have all that mainstream stuff in one app, I'll be okay with that. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. All right, so next we got Venom: Let There Be Carnage, the official trailer number 2. So just to preface this, I haven't not watched the first Venom. I kind of did it out of like spite because I'm like, this shit sucks and I want Venom in the MCU. But you know, I know it was a dumb fun movie. Like I know maybe I'm too harsh on Venom one, but you know, I know a lot of people say, oh, it's just a fun dumb movie, like kind of like an early 2000s superhero movie, I guess, where it's like,
yes,
don't really take it too seriously and it's fine. And it looks like they're continuing that with this. Like it just looks like you want to see Venom and Carnage fight. Here you go. Don't really think too hard about it. So and yeah, I guess it looks fine. You know, there's a lot of CG and stuff, but that's kind of what you expect. And I think Carnage looks kind of cool as well. You know, I've always been a pretty big fan of Carnage and Venom since I was a kid. So having them fight is like pretty nice to see. But again, I just wish they were like in a better like cinematic universe.
Yeah. We just wish that the terms were better because, you know, this trailer itself, I think, is fine. You know, pretty much expanding on that idea of like, hey, you know, this is going to be Eddie Brock versus, you know, Carnage and shit like that. I forget exactly. And God damn it, I forget the fucking. Anyways, Venom versus Carnage. That's pretty much the goddamn movie. And yeah, I mean, seeing Woody Harrelson transform into Carnage was a little jarring. You know, it was just a fucking CG glob, which I did not expect it to look like that. But
yeah,
hey, you know, it is what it is. And this movie is still slated to come out later this year in October, which is, you know, kind of cool. But then again, you know, the Delta variant's still going around, so who the fuck knows what will happen a couple months from now. But the movie itself, first Venom, you know, I definitely went into that, was like, I'm like, this shit's gonna be terrible, and it was. But you know, I could see the charm in it. You know, I did laugh at some points. I could see, you know, people enjoying this, having fun with it. But you know, I wish it was rated R, just because I think that the kills that Venom does and the sort of action sequences could have been a little better if it was rated R. But you know, having it PG-13 is just for them to sell more toys, get more ticket sales, etc. So I understand that. So and this movie's also I believe PG-13 still. So you know, it is what it is. But you know, this movie, Let There Be Carnage, you know, after years and years of people wanting to see Venom versus Carnage or Carnage anywhere near the big screen, we're finally getting it. And like you said, you know, with Spider-Man and Venom and all of that other stuff, I believe Tom Hardy, he has been fighting very much behind the scenes. I believe that there was a interview where he was like, yeah, you know, like he definitely wants Tom Holland Spider-Man to fight him in some sort of movie, whether it be a Venom 3 or some sort of just like crossover dedicated movie or whatever. And yeah, I think that would be very cool. One thing that I found very funny on Twitter was that people were like, yo, bro, Carnage would fuck up Tom Holland Spider-Man. I'm like, he would just fuck up any Spider-Man, because that's just the fucking story, guys. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a reason why.
Oh yeah, go on.
No.
I was gonna say, I hate when people do like power levels like that. It's just like, oh, Toby would totally. I'm like, dude, shut up.
I mean, yeah, I think that just shows that, you know, people don't know the source material, where it's like, hey, you know, like when Spider-Man did face Carnage within the comics, he did need Venom's help, which is why, you know, anyways, you know, this movie is probably going to do well again. And I believe Sony, the studio, are very happy with the product right now. So, you know, hopefully it does do well, because a third movie has not been greenlit. It really hangs on whether or not this movie does well, which I believe it will, because overseas, this movie made so much money. So...
Yeah, I did. The first one made us like so much money.
Yeah.
For like no reason. But like you said, like previously, I kind of wish this movie was also rated R, because after watching like Suicide Squad, I'm kind of just like some superhero movies kind of just deserve to be rated R, and I feel like a Venom movie not being R at this point is like weird. Because you know they do a lot of like things. I'm like, yeah, this should be a lot more gory than it is, and I'm not even like a someone that likes that stuff that much, but still, like, you know, you kind of just expect it. But it's not that big of a deal. I'm probably not going to watch it anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
But yeah, moving on from that, we got the Star Wars Visions trailer, which is pretty much the Star Wars anime series. And yeah, it's going to be on Disney Plus on September 22nd. And they got, I believe it was like 7 different Japanese anime studios to just make their own Star Wars stories, tell their own Star Wars tales. And I think you said this on previous episodes when it comes to Star Wars, but when they do like the sort of weird and wacky stuff, the sort of side stories that don't focus on the sort of like Skywalker, stories, that's when it's the most interesting and the most fun. And, this one definitely looks like it. I mean, animation wise, like it definitely looks like, they got those 7 anime studios and they made their own Star Wars stories, and it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I just cannot wait to see exactly what stories they decide to tell, because Star Wars is pretty much it's such a big world and such a big universe that they could just tell whatever goddamn stories they want, and it would probably work in some way. So yeah, I just cannot wait to see what these full-length episodes have to offer and whatever stories that they decide to tell. I hope that they are coherent.
Yeah, I think the best part is they don't really have to be, but like they can still do their own thing. Like this was something I wasn't expecting at all. By the way, I saw this on YouTube. I'm like, what the hell is this? And I was very happy when I saw, especially that I already know the two like Trigger's doing 2 of these, and I could already tell one of them just straight up like kill the kill. I'm like, hell yeah, dude! I got so hyped, dude. I cannot wait to watch the Trigger ones. But the rest of them look amazing as well. Like the animation just looks so good. And I think Star Wars as like an anime like thing could work so well. So I'm happy they're really doing something like this. And since I guess this is like an anthology thing, like nothing's really gonna connect to each other. I think that's great, because just tell like one story and then just move on to the next one. And hopefully there's like a season 2 if this one's successful enough with like different animation studios. I think that'd be neat. But yeah, overall it just looks sick as hell, and it looks really great. Right now I have to say, like I'm probably the most happy with Disney Plus in terms of like their original stuff. I mean, if you're not into Marvel or Star Wars, it kind of sucks for you.
Yeah.
But if you even care a little bit about those 2 like sort of big franchises, like Disney Plus has been great, especially for like Star Wars, because I think it's really been like carrying the franchise so far. Because I know, say what you will with the sequel trilogy, a lot of people didn't really like them. A lot of the Disney Plus shows have just been like fantastic, so I'm very happy to see them sort of continuing that with Star Wars Visions. And apparently, like the dub version of this has like actual actors in it. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I saw like Neil Patrick Harris was there. I'm like, what's going on?
Look, this is what happens when you have Disney and money. So
it's so weird, because I was expecting normal dub actors to be in this. People always see everywhere. But I'm like, whoa, those are actual actors. What the hell? So yeah, that's pretty interesting. It really seems like Disney's paid a shit ton of money to get these made. So I'm hoping it pays off, and I'm just hoping they're entertaining. Like they don't really have to worry about any canon or anything like that. They could go full crazy. So I'm very excited to see like sort of like things what these animation studios think Star Wars should be. So yeah, very excited for this.
Yeah, and just going off of your point with the whole like Disney Plus thing, Star Wars, I think without The Mandalorian, a lot of people would still be disinterested within Star Wars just because of how The Rise of Skywalker ended. But The Mandalorian really did bring Star Wars back into a much more positive light, because I think universally, like no one's really bad talked The Mandalorian because it's just that good. And I think that with, Disney Plus original stuff so far has been good. And I haven't watched The Bad Batch, which is the Clone Wars sort of like spin-off show, but I've only heard some good things about it. Not a lot of people are really talking about it that much, so but I will definitely try to give that a watch one of these days, because it's only 12 episodes and I do love the Clone Wars and the story that they did there, so I wonder how that show's going to sort of be, because I believe it takes place after Order 66 or whatever. So
yeah.
But yeah, Star Wars Visions, this looks like it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right. So next we got the Avatar Netflix cast announced. So this is like for like basically the 4 main characters, and I'm gonna butcher these names. So
don't worry about it. Just try your best.
Okay. We got Jordan Cormier as Aang. I think that's how you say that. All right. Katara's name. All right. Kai
Wentio.
Yeah, Kai Wentio. I think that's how you say that. As Katara. You got Ian Owsley as Sokka, and you got Dallas Liu, as Zuko. So yeah, I mean, I don't really see too much issues with this. I think the diversity of the cast is a lot better than like than the Shyamalan movie. I appreciate that Shyamalan went for a different take for the Fire Nation, at least, where it was more like, I guess, like Indian based than Japanese based. I thought that was kind of cool, but everyone else just kind of didn't really fit, I feel. This one, I feel like the characters fit a little more in their characters' roles. Again, it doesn't really matter too much, but like I think they kind of got the casting a little better in this sort of Netflix remake of the of the show.
Hmm.
But again, I won't really know until I actually see them in action, right? Like there's only so much I could gain from just like looking at their like headshots or whatever. So, I do think the cast does look a bit better, but again, then you see the acting. So, because I
Yeah.
only know, yeah, apparently one of these guys are in 13 Reasons Why, and which
Oh yeah,
one?
no. That is Sokka, and I looked him up, bro. This guy's like a fucking side character. I don't
Okay.
even remember him. I'm gonna be honest. So like, yeah, don't even worry about that. The rest of these guys, I have not seen them in anything personally. But the casting choice I think is fine. A lot of people on Twitter were definitely up in arms about Aang and Katara just because Aang's an actual child and Katara, she looks like she's actually a teenager. So there is some sort of I guess theories out there that it might not be Aang and Katara together at the end or some shit, which
Yeah, that'd be a little monka, yeah. I mean, it was
it's
always kind of little monka, right? Because I don't know, it always felt more like his sister or whatever. I won't get into it that much.
I mean, technically, Aang's already like 100 something years old, but whatever.
Like, all right, you're gonna use the anime lobby logic.
Look,
Okay.
anyways, I think that Netflix live action adaptations have not been all that great so
Yeah.
far. So we're just gonna have to wait and see exactly how well this one does, especially within the past 5 years, the Avatar and Korra fan base have only grew and sort of became more mainstream because of the addition of their shows on Netflix. So a lot more people have been rewatching the shows or actually first discovering Avatar, and it's great. Like that is awesome to see that people still love this show after so many years it came out. So this live action one, I'm not holding my breath for anything. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping that it's at least decent. But obviously we're just gonna have to wait and see. I'm sure the first trailer is gonna be a very clear indicator of whether or not this is gonna be a goddamn trash can on fire or it's actually gonna be decent. So
Yeah, I'm just gonna wait for that first trailer and make my mind off of that, because like obviously we could both attest that the original Avatar still holds really really well.
yes.
Like there's no real reason for a remake for it, but if they think they could bring something new to the table, then go ahead, I guess. But we still have the original show, even if you don't like this remake, it's fine.
Yep.
So I won't really worry about it that much.
Yeah. All right, so now we're gonna get into some MCU stuff. First up is the Eternals trailer. So, yeah, this is the final trailer. And I think that despite all of the trailers that we've gotten for this movie in particular, it still looks weird. It still looks a little out there for the MCU stuff, but it still looks like an MCU movie, if you get what I'm
Yeah.
saying. I'm glad one of the characters was like, "Where were you during the Thanos fight?" I'm like, "Yep, that's a very good question to ask."
Yeah.
But the cast is still insane with a lot of like big names. And yeah, I mean, I don't really have a huge opinion on this movie. I'm probably still gonna watch it whether it comes out later this year or not. So yeah, I just have to really just sit down and actually watch it because I don't really have a clear indication of whether or not I'm like into it yet, if you get what I'm saying, despite all of these trailers, because it's definitely the most far out there MCU thing we've gotten since like Guardians of the Galaxy, I think.
Yeah, it feels very different in like a weird way. Like
Hmm.
Guardians, I love because it's different in like a good way. With this one, I don't know. It kind of feels like like not in terms of budget, but it does kind of feel like a CW show a little bit. I don't know. It kind of gives me some weird vibes, and I don't know if I like it as much. I mean, I'm gonna watch it anyway because it looks pretty important to the next phase of the MCU, so I'm gonna have to watch it.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I'm just okay with it so far. I'm glad they made that like sort of like, oh, where were you with Thanos? And it's like, oh, we can only attack like these weird demon things. So I'm like, okay, sure, I guess that doesn't seem very useful, but whatever. So yeah, I guess that explains that. And yeah, I'm kind of just curious. It seems like most of the movie is gonna be them sort of like reuniting, I guess, and then fight like again those weird. I forgot what they called them, those weird demon people they're fighting, and I think that'd be the end of that, and then like sort of like integrate into the Avengers or something. I don't know, but
Hmm.
so far it looks fine, I guess. Again, I'm not too excited for this movie at all, but if it comes out and it's good, then it's good. But right now, I don't really have too much of a strong opinion on it.
Yeah, because I'm sure Marvel put a lot of money just into the cast themselves. Like, there's a lot of big names in here. So I hope that this movie, by the end of it, makes us at least care about these characters because there's so many of them. So, and yeah, it's definitely going to be hard to make the audience really care and love about every single character, especially within like 2 hours. So I wonder how they're going to do that successfully.
Yeah. Also, it doesn't help like Guardians. Like there weren't even that many characters. Only like what, 5 or something.
Yeah.
But they're all really distinct aliens. So you can kind of just like, oh, like that's Rocket because he's a raccoon. There's Groot. I'm Groot. But with this, it's like they're all just people. So it's kind of like I don't know. I feel like I make them stick out more. So yeah, I don't know how well they're gonna do it, but let's see. I'm not gonna be too harsh on it until I actually see it. So. All right, so we got more Marvel news. We got Anthony Mackie, so that's Falcon. He closes the deal for Captain America 4, which really shouldn't be that much of a surprise if you watch Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So continue on with that storyline. So, I'm not saying any spoilers, but you kind of guess.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's not really much of a spoiler because I think pretty much most people knew how it was going to start and end with Falcon pretty much being hesitant about taking on the shield, and then by the end of it he has a reason to take on the shield. So but yeah, I mean, like you said, it's not really surprising to see that he has signed a deal for Captain America 4. It's just a matter of who's going to be in it, who's going to be directing it, and yeah, I think that Anthony Mackie, he is a funny ass dude. I mean, I've seen him in some other movies, and him in that one Black Mirror episode, and I'm pretty sure we all know fucking Striking Vipers. That shit was interesting. That shit was interesting. But I think that this movie should definitely take him like as an actor and like probably use him a lot more, because up until the Falcon show, like he wasn't really like a main character. So hopefully that this Captain America movie really does bring him into that limelight. And many people have shown their dislike for Falcon and the Winter Soldier for X, Y, and Z reasons, which me personally, I still enjoyed the show for what it was. I just like that it was another sort of like action Marvel show featuring the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But with this one, sort of Captain America 4 is exciting because I really like Chris Evans' character, and sort of them taking on a new version of Captain America in his own solo movie. I wonder on how that's going to mix in, because we've seen so far with this phase, it's been a lot of sort of like interdimensional multiverse timeline, sort of weird stuff. So I wonder on how this movie's going to tie into all of that.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. Yeah, I'm kind of interested to see how he also like spins. Obviously he's very different from Chris Evans' Captain America. Steve Rogers. He's very different in terms of a character. So I'm really looking forward to see how he sort of like spins that for his own Captain America. Sort of like Peter Parker and Miles Morales, right? Like they're very different characters, but they're both still Spider-Man. So I'm very interested to see how that would play out in Captain America 4. I do think he is a good character, honestly. Like you don't really think much of him because he's not really in anything that important until Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I think he was great in that show. So I'm very excited to see how they actually like expand on his character and how big of a character he is in the next phase of the MCU. Like I don't think he's gonna take that same super duper leadership role that Steve Rogers did, because I don't think that's like his style as much. But who knows? Maybe he will. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to it. And yeah, it's gonna be weird with all the other Phase 4 stuff that's been going on with the multi-dimensional timelines and stuff. So yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see how all this plays out, and especially with him being the new Captain America. So.
Yeah, I would definitely hate to see him be stuck as like a side character in like
I
the future
not.
Avengers.
Like,
yeah,
he's Captain America now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, they did this whole show, and he's still the Falcon. Yeah,
that'd be super lame.
Moving on from that, we got some news that Riri Williams, who is going to be Ironheart, will make her debut in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, which is very interesting. I think that her character was supposed to debut in her own MCU show, but I guess that they somehow were managed to fit her into Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, which makes sense because now that Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace, he's not going to be in the movie, and they're not going to use another actor to play as T'Challa, so they have to find a way around that. So I wonder on how that movie's going to play out, and I wonder how big of a role Dominique Thorne is going to play as Ironheart, because in this sort of like comicbook.com article, they do explain like her quick little backstory on how she's introduced within the comics. And obviously, the MCU has done a lot of things to introduce characters in many different ways. So I am, like we've been saying, very interested to see on how she's going to be introduced within the MCU, because, within the comic book world, she's not appreciative as much, I believe, just because she's sort of like a Mary Sue character, if I am correct. I'm not entirely sure, because I haven't read the comics myself, but I've watched a couple of Trailer Drake videos where he's talked about her character versus Miles Morales, and sort of like the differences between them two. They are minority versions of their original characters, but how they were treated differently and received differently. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is going to be pretty interesting. I think Miles over the years have gained a lot of respect. He came as is this just a Black Spider-Man? But I think Miles became his own character throughout the years, and now he's basically appreciated as his own character. Like, a lot of people get hyped when to see Miles now instead of being like, oh, that's just like Black Spider-Man, like I said. So hopefully the MCU could do the same thing with this character. I don't really know too much about this character. I mean, I could say that about a lot of MCU characters that end up being huge names later. So I'm hoping the MCU does her right and like maybe improve on her character from the comics rather than sort of just stick to the same if people don't really like how she was in the comics. So yeah, that's always great because I mean I didn't really give a shit about like Thor or Captain America when I first saw them in the MCU because I'm like, oh, they're lame, but then they turned out being some of my favorite characters. So hopefully we can do the same thing with this character. I mean she is just like Iron Man, right? But like not.
Yeah, so in this like little synopsis that the article gives, she pretty much impressed Tony Stark, and Tony Stark gave her the blessing of being the new Iron Man in a way. So
Right.
I guess that's where like that sort of like Mary Sue sort of comes in, is because like Tony Stark's still within her storyline, while with Miles, Peter Parker died within that timeline. So obviously the MCU, Tony Stark's dead. So how is this all going to connect together? Who knows? They obviously have a plan, because Kevin Feige always does with the MCU stuff. So
Yeah, he's pretty wacky when it comes to connecting all these things. Yeah, hopefully they probably just make her, she builds an Iron Man suit off her own merits or something, and then like just becomes the next Iron Man instead of just being like, I guess Tony Stark. I mean, I guess that's why people don't really like Tom Holland, right, as much as Spider-Man, because Tony Stark is
because
like
I guess
his dad.
I guess because they sort of did that with Peter Parker, but with what Kevin Feige had and the sort of like very quick and like rushed deal that they did to get him into Captain America Civil War, I don't really blame how Tom Holland Spider-Man got into the MCU, because it was either that or no Spider-Man. And like Spider-Man has been a very integral part of the MCU thus far, and I'm sure that he's going to be very, very important within No Way Home either way. So
Yeah. So hopefully they do her character right. I think Black Panther 2 is going to be a pretty interesting movie just because of all the events that have happened. So yeah, I'm looking forward to how they introduce a new character. I'm always happy when they introduce new characters. So I guess we'll see how that plays out.
All right, so now we're going to get into our recent activities. I'm going to let you go first because I have a shit ton to go through.
Yeah, so I haven't played too much because I was on vacation, so I was kind of just enjoying myself. But I have finished some things before when I got home. I was like, all right, let me actually finish some things up before the podcast. And I finished out Neo Rounds with You. I was pretty close to the end anyway, but the ending bit took a bit longer than I thought. Overall, it was very, very good. It's kind of sad that the game has not been selling well at all because Square really hasn't advertised the game at all. It doesn't help that it's also a sequel to a really niche game anyway. Yes, like the first game is a cult classic, but it's kind of overlooked by a lot of things, and the same thing's happening to this game, which is pretty sad. Because I do think, like I said in the last podcast, I think it improves on a lot of the systems within the first game to make the gameplay a lot better in terms of just the final remix version on the Switch. Because I can't really comment about the DS version of the first game because I did not play it, but the Switch version of the first game is kind of a mess to play because it can't really come up with a good control scheme for like the touchscreen controls, so they kind of just added it there, kind of clunky. This game kind of just makes it into an action combat game, and I think it works a lot better in that sense. I already kind of went over the whole combat and systems in the first podcast, so if you want to listen to that, you can just do that. But in terms of story, I thought it was really good. I think since the game is broken up into like 3 weeks, like the first game, it could feel like there is some filler in there where it's like, okay, they're kind of just doing this just to get some more gameplay out of the game, and that's it. And they just trickle some story beats into it, which, you could feel that sometimes. It also kind of happens with the whole time travel mechanic. So your main character could time travel and then go back to the beginning of the day to like redo stuff. And this works pretty okay, but there's a lot of times where your character kind of just messes up because story demands it, and then you have to go back and just change things really slightly. Then you can move on. It does feel really like padding most of the time, and it can be a little annoying when I just want to see what's gonna happen next to the story because like the game makes it very obvious when like you're gonna time travel back. It's like, oh, that's a thing that's happening. Isn't that weird? Maybe we should have like done something different. And then you go to the end of the day, you mess up, and it's like, okay, yeah, obviously you have to go back and like to the beginning of the day and then do everything over again. That kind of got a little annoying. It doesn't do it. It does it a lot, but not to that extent too often. There's two sections of the game, especially the last bit of the game where you have to do like the final day like 3 times. I'm like, okay, like I get it. So yeah, I feel like that was a little overdone, but overall I think it was a pretty interesting mechanic, but I think it was a little clunky. But besides that, I thought the story itself was really good. I thought it was a good continuation of the first game, and having its own storyline. I would definitely not recommend playing this game first. Definitely play the first game first because there's a lot of plot points in this game or in the first game that ends in this game, and it just brings up a lot of terminology that you just won't understand if you didn't play the first game because it just doesn't really explain it. It kind of just expects you to understand the things that happen in the first game in this game. So yeah, definitely play the first game. This is straight up a sequel to that game. So yeah. Also, you won't really appreciate some really cool moments in the end that are like pretty satisfying if you played the first game. But yeah, overall, I thought it was a fantastic sequel. It kept all the same style from the original DS game and like just improved upon it. All the music was fantastic. Like I said, I think the battle system is better, and just a lot of the other underlying systems are just better in general as well. And yeah, it felt like it had the same heart and passion that the first game had. And unfortunately, it looks like it's also going to follow the first game, where it's probably not going to sell too well and just become a cult classic, and we won't see it for another like 15 years. But overall, I thought it was fantastic. If you were into the first game, you probably have this game already. But if this game caught your eye, or maybe you like other games sort of in this style, like something like Persona, you probably will enjoy this game too because it has a similar feel to it. Obviously not like none of the combat or anything. I'm just talking about like being in a modern Japanese setting of like a JRPG, I guess. But yeah, overall, very good game. I'm gonna be sad it's not gonna like be in too many game of the year lists, but I hope it does because it was very good. And next, I finished the Final Fantasy 1 Pixel Remaster. I finished this kind of a bit ago. A game wasn't really too long. I think it only took me like 11 hours, so it's a really short game because, it's an NES RPG, so you can't really expect much from it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, everything I said in the first podcast where I talked about this, or the last podcast, jeez, applies to this game as well, where I explained that, this is the speed up mechanics, or you can auto battle, and battles go pretty quick because the encounter rate in this game is really high. Like you walk like a few steps and get a random encounter, which is kind of to be expected for like, again, an NES RPG. But a Pixel Remaster does add a lot of quality of life. Like you get Ethers and Phoenix Downs, which were not in the original game. A lot of the stats work because intelligence didn't work in the original NES game, so Magic Caster was kind of just useless. And there's like a really good mini-map system, so you don't really get lost too often in dungeons. Overall, it's just a fantastic quality of life for the first original Final Fantasy game, and basically all the other ones follow suit with this. I'm planning to beat the second one soon, but a lot of games are coming up plus school, so we'll see. But yeah, if you want to get into Final Fantasy, if you were into the first game, I think this is like a no. Like you should just buy it. I heard the Final Fantasy 3 Pixel Remaster is probably the best out of the three we have currently. But if you're into just buying all of them, just buy all of them. So yeah, overall really good. Soundtrack is also amazing. That's probably where most of the budget went, honestly. But yeah, really good. And that's about it. That's all I've been doing.
All right, so what have I been doing? I've been watching a lot of anime and reading a lot of manga just because I had this past week off from work because I changed my work schedule to just weekends. So I was just like, well, shit, I'm gonna just enjoy myself before school starts again. So I played some Fall Guys to get the Clank costume, and I didn't 100% the Ratchet costume mission, so I didn't get the Rivet plate, which I was kind of sad about, but I'm like, these motherfuckers didn't say that shit before. But yeah, Fall Guys, it's still Fall Guys. It's a goddamn platformer battle royale. I still have so much fun playing it. You had to get a trios win with the Clank missions, which was very interesting because it was me, Kofi, and Jeffrey's not good at Fall Guys. But it was funny. It was funny just watching him struggle. And, you know, there were some games where I would mess up. Kofi was on point that day, but that shit was just so funny. And then some movies that I watched. The Green Knight, this was a A24 movie that a lot of people were hyping up. And I was like, well, you know, if it's good, you know, I might as well go watch it. That's sort of like my thing when it comes to like media. If it's good, I'll like give it a shot. So, you know, I had no idea what the hell I was getting myself into. And this is definitely a slow burn sort of fantasy movie. And I was not prepared for that exactly. But it's good. I'm not entirely sure if I really like it personally. I recognize that it's good. It's a good movie. There were definitely scenes and moments where I was like, yeah, like that's pretty cool. There was a moment where it looked like Attack on Titan for a second, which I was definitely laughing at myself in the fucking theaters. I was like, what the hell is going on? But yeah, you know, The Green Knight, I'm sure you've watched it if you wanted to watch it already, but if you want to watch the first trailer, then see it in theaters. If it's still around, give it a shot. Free Guy. This is a movie with Ryan Reynolds and a couple of influencers making cameos, including Pokemon, Jacksepticeye, and Ninja.
Hell yeah,
and
dude.
Pretty much this is about a guy who's a NPC in a video game, and you see him break out of that NPC role, and that NPC role guy is Ryan Reynolds, and you also see some other characters within the background as like game developers and all of this other stuff. There's like a bigger story there, and you know, it's a dumb movie. I'm gonna be honest, it's really dumb and stupid. There were definitely moments where I was cringing because I was like, what the fuck is going on? It's definitely like the normie version of like Ready Player One, because Ready Player One had like so many like nerdy references that like I understood most of them, but this one like I was just like, man, what the fuck's going on, you know? And some of the writing, I was just like, I definitely wouldn't say that, you know? Like there's a moment towards the end where one of the characters has to sort of like you know, not do like what the bad guy wants him to do. He's like, I'm not gonna do that. That's my boy. And I'm like, no one fucking says that, like, seriously.
Oh my God.
But yeah, whenever Pokey and like Ninja showed up on the screen, it definitely took me out of the movie like every single time, because I'm like, that's fucking Pokey, that's fucking Ninja. And like they have like fake Twitch chats going on, and that shit was funny too, because like, you know, the chats are like very very calm, very civil. I don't see any messages deleted or anything like that, you know.
Not accurate.
But yeah, you know, Free Guy, if you know what you're getting into, it's a fun movie. It's not gonna be like a good like you know, like, oh my God, like this shit like should go to like the fucking Oscars or some shit. Like if you know what you're getting into, it's a fucking Ryan Reynolds movie. It's fun. And then here's the anime that I watched. So I finally finished Death Note. So I wasn't gonna watch any more anime until I finished Death Note. So I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna sit down and finish Death Note. And yeah, it's good. I mean, on a good day, I would definitely give it a 9. On a bad day, I would give it an 8. The reason being is because a lot of people have the same sentiment where like the last third of the show sort of like dips in quality, which I agree to a certain extent, just because I'm sure that Shonen Jump noticed that like this manga was like popping off, and they were like, we gotta like keep it going for a little bit. So they kind of stretched out certain things, and it definitely could have ended at a certain point for me personally. Like it definitely could have ended near the halfway point, but they still had more.
Oh my God. Okay.
More of a story to tell. But even then, like even after like that halfway point for me personally, there were still like moments, and even in the last third, where I was like, wow, like what the fuck's going on? Like fucking Light's insane, you know? Like my man's still doing like 10,000 IQ plays over here. But you know, Death Note, it's definitely a cult classic within the anime community, and definitely recommended to anyone that watches anime, regardless if you like sort of shonen titles or not. One Piece. Kofi fucking wants me to watch One Piece, so I started watching One Piece with him.
So many episodes, bro.
Yeah, there are so many episodes. They were still on the first arc, because the first arc's fucking 60 episodes.
Yeah, Bubsy, or what's his name? Bugsy? The clown
fucking,
man.
Yeah, fucking Buggy. Or
Yeah, Buggy, right?
Yeah,
Clown man? That's the only arc I watched.
Yeah, we have passed that point.
Okay.
I'm on like episode 16 right now, but yeah, I mean, it's fun. I like Luffy because he's just like, he's always just T-posing, just like fucking standing around, just like doing nothing. And then like he does stuff, and it's always like cool. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like he's actually just like whenever like a character's like monologuing or something, like Luffy's just like stale face, just like stone cold, just like not doing anything. While with like I guess like current like shonen characters, with like Itadori, Tanjiro, and even like fucking Deku, like they would always like say something or they would always try to like butt in or whatever. But fucking Luffy, my man, just T-posing, standing around, just chilling. So far so good with One Piece. I am not looking forward to getting up to episode fucking 900 or whatever the fuck. So yeah, there's definitely going to be a goddamn long ass journey with One Piece, but I'm looking forward to it because so far it's been good. Way of the House Husband. So this is a 5-episode Netflix anime. Each episode is like less than 20 minutes long. I've heard some things about the animation, which are very true, which is why, in my opinion, it's like if you're interested within it, like give it a watch, just because like it's definitely cheaper than like going out and buying the manga, which like I will buy the manga at some point. I'm just not in a rush to do it. So pretty much the way of the House Husband is about this ex what's it called? It's not mafia. It's fucking
Yakuza.
Yakuza. It's this ex Yakuza guy. He is now a house husband. So you see like other people like from his past like come into his life, and like he does like funny scenarios, and yeah, I mean like it's fun. It's pretty much formatted just like how Nagatoro and Tagaki-san are, where like each episode has like multiple scenarios and multiple sort of like episodes within each episode, if that makes sense, so like episode 1 will have like 4 to 5 scenarios, and then the next episode will have a similar amount. And it's fun. I wasn't laughing as much as I thought I was. Maybe it's because the fucking animation is literally like slideshows, which I heard about because of the fucking Trash Taste podcast. They were like, yeah, like it's literally just like slideshows and like manga panels where like they just color it in, and then they like slide the characters over for like animation, quote unquote, which I was like, let me see if that's actually true. And it is true. It is very jarring to watch the show because I'm like, man, like nothing's like really like moving or really feels alive. But there is some charm to it. I can see this as a way for like myself and many others to really get into this series and probably buy the manga, because I doubt that this is going to get a second season, because this is definitely very mid. Definitely not something that I would recommend people watch fully, despite it only being 5 episodes long, each episode being less than 20 minutes long. Like if you like the first episode, you can keep going, but if not, you could drop it, because it doesn't really change other than them adding characters and adding other scenarios and things like that. So yeah. After the rain, I started watching this because I wanted to watch another romance drama slice of life. So I started watching this. It's on Amazon. So I was like, all right, let me just go and get started on it. I had no idea what this dynamic of this romance slice of life was going to be. And it turns out it's a fucking 17-year-old girl with her manager at her job, and he's like fucking like 45 or some shit, but like he's not into it. He's not into it. It's 100% her like falling in love with him. So like he's trying to like navigate it, and she's also trying to navigate it, because it's obviously there's a fucking massive age gap there. So I'm only on like episode 9 or 8 or 9 is the next episode that I have to watch. It's good so far. It's beautifully animated. I will say that. Like whenever the girl Tabachi, fucking I forget her name. God damn it, I'm so bad with fucking anime names. Tachibana. Whenever she like has like the fucking love gaze for the guy or whatever, like it looks so beautiful. And the characters like themselves, like outside of like this like sort of like romance that's going on, there are some other or like side stories and side plots going on, and those are interesting as well, involving her school friends and her sort of past life as like a school runner before her injury. So, and that comes up frequently during the show. But yeah, so far so good. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to end, but it's only 12 episodes long, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't cover all of the manga stuff. So I'm definitely sold on this anime, and I'm definitely going to pick up the manga at some point, just not anytime soon. Then Demon Slayer manga, finally finished that because the last volume came out. It's good. I think that people that said that they hated the ending, I can see why. Personally, I liked it. I didn't see any major problem with it. There's definitely a better way to end it, I will say, but them showing the ending the way they did, I was fine with it. But that's pretty much all I can really say.
Yeah, that's it. Say more than that. I mean, that's reassuring though.
Yeah. Eden Zero. Once again, the goddamn no brain shonen series that I've been reading. I'm now all caught up with volume 11, and I just have to wait for volume 12 to come out and buy that whenever I want. But yeah, it's fun. It's good. Call Me Can't Communicate. This is the manga that I have been reading the most, just because the anime adaptation is coming out later this year.
Oh yeah.
So I recently got the other volumes that I was missing from Right Stuff because they finally got them back in stock and they just sent them over to me. And I've been binge reading that. So I pretty much finished at volume 2, and now I'm up to volume. Where am I at now? I went from volume 3. And I just finished volume 8. So I've been reading a lot of this. Yeah. And like the chapters are like pretty short and like pretty quick. But if you guys don't know what Call Me Can't Communicate is, it's pretty much about this girl named Komi. She has this anxiety, social disorder. She can't talk to people. Like she has trouble communicating, if you will. So there's this guy named Tonto who is in her class, and he tries to help her get over this sort of disorder that she has and try to help her open up a little bit more, get more friends, etc. And it's fun, it's cute. At first, I was not into it. I will say that after reading the first volume, I was like, I'm not entirely sure if I want to keep reading it. But after reading the first 3 or 4 volumes, I'm definitely like 100% into it now. I recently just picked up the other volumes that I was missing. I picked up 12, 13, and 14. So now I'm pretty much set on Komi for a little bit. But yeah, it's fun, it's cute. I cannot wait for the anime adaptation just because the first 2 trailers that we've gotten so far of it looks great. It looks fucking fantastic. Like, I cannot wait to see how this is going to be animated and how they're going to adapt it, because I think that once the anime comes out, and if it's like really, really good, this manga is going to like fly off of the shelves at Barnes & Nobles and shit. So yeah, cannot wait to see the anime, and I'm also very much enjoying the manga so far. Rent a Girlfriend, I just finished the latest volume that I got, which was volume 6, which pretty much covers all of season 1. So I just have to wait for the other volumes to come in from Right Stuff. But yeah, reading it as opposed to watching it, it's pretty much the same goddamn thing. There are some little details that they don't show within the anime that is within the manga, which is nice. But if you are interested in getting into Rent a Girlfriend, you could just watch the anime. I think that it is just as good, if not just a little bit better. But I also have been reading BL Metamorphosis, which is the boys love sort of grandma and bookstore girls sort of having this bond and this relationship over boys love manga. And I read volumes 2 and 3 because I had those in my room, and I was like, let me just go and read those. Volume 5, which is the final volume, supposed to come out later this year. So whenever I get to that, I will get to that. But yeah, it's good. It's still very fun, wholesome manga, seeing these two interact with each other and sort of their different perspectives on life. You have this girl who's like sort of like lost, she's a fucking teenager. So like she has no idea exactly what she wants to do with her life. She doesn't know exactly how to navigate the world, while you have this elderly woman who's, getting into boys love manga. She now has like this new hobby, and she sort of views life in a different way. And you sort of see that sort of interconnect and sort of you see how they live their lives differently, because like
Right.
there's at a certain point where like they stop talking to each other because she gets busy with school or whatever, and she gets anxious about calling back to her because it's like, oh, like, does she hate me, does she even remember me, shit like that. So yeah, it's very wholesome, it's very good. A Man and His Cat is also another wholesome manga that I just decided to buy at Right Stuff because it was on sale, and I heard that it was very wholesome and very cute, and it is. It's pretty much about this guy who gets a cat, and you get to see what the cat does and what he does, and yeah, it's fun. That's pretty much all I really have to say about that manga. It's just cute. So yeah. So now let's talk about Beastars. So this is going to be spoilers. We're going to talk about spoilers just because it's on Netflix and this season has been out for a little bit. So, yeah, spoilers are going to start now. So, Damien, what'd you think of it? Because you were alluding to, you had some issues with it to me personally. So, I wonder, what are your thoughts on season 2?
Yeah, so I definitely think this season it's still good. I still enjoyed it. I'm still looking forward to season 3 because I think they are making a season 3. But I definitely feel it's a bit weaker than the first season. Because I feel like it's getting lost in the sauce on what it wants to be. So to explain that, I think the first season was a really good, slice of life, little mystery thing, but it's mostly about the relationship with Haru and Legoshi, right? Like that was sort of
Mm-hmm.
like the main thing of the show. Towards I know some people didn't like the ending of season one because it kind of went balls off the wall, where he kind of just 1v1s and Lion Yakuza, which it was fine. I didn't mind that much. I thought it was just a fun little finale to that season one. And yeah, I was kind of, thought the show was kind of just going to continue in that manner, just being more about Haru and Legoshi and like dealing with that sort of stuff. But season two kind of does it the opposite way, where it kind of focuses more on being more of a action show, especially towards like the ending of it. And I don't know how I feel about that as much. Like
Mm-hmm.
Haru was like not even really there that much. She was kind of just there like a few times, and that's it. Like Legoshi's love of Haru kind of became a love of just herbivores in general, and he sort of just wants to be like Batman for them, which I'm like, okay, I guess. Um, and I don't know how well that works. I'm okay with what's his name, Louis, right? The
Mm-hmm.
the deer. Yeah, I'm okay with him being a part of the lion yakuza. Like I thought that was kind of neat. And I thought that was a cool plot point. And I'm sad when they kind of just dropped that towards the end as well. But I guess to go further into other points, I also feel like there's just a lot of little nitpicky things that kind of just added up to just kind of annoy me, which usually doesn't really happen too often. One of the bigger ones is the snake security guard that just shows up for 3 episodes, I think, and then you never see her again. So
Mm-hmm.
apparently the manga artist or writer or whatever forgot that character existed, so like they
Holy
just
shit.
didn't bring it back. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of bad.
It's like
Oh,
Raditz all over again.
yeah, and it also doesn't help because I'm like, where was the snake lady when the alpaca guy was getting murdered? So, and again, there was some other little stuff, but I just want to know what's your overall opinion on it before I get more into the nitty gritty about it.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely bring up some good points that I wasn't really thinking about on how like it probably should have been a lot more about Haru and Legoshi and sort of like their dynamic in their relationship because whenever those two were on screen within season two, I definitely enjoyed it. But it was definitely Legoshi trying to be Batman for the herbivores and seeing on how that went, and that is like a proper I guess like character arc for him because that just seems like the kind of character that he is. He just wants to be the good guy because that's just who he is. And Louis' storyline with him being the sort of head of the Yakuza Lions or whatever, that was very, very cool. And I've
Yeah.
definitely liked seeing his story and where that was going. I guess my problem with the season was like the finale where like, we had like this, what was he? A bear or whatever that
Yeah, it was
was
a bear.
yeah,
Yeah.
so like he was revealed to be the one that killed the
I
guy
forgot what his
in
name was.
yeah
The
yeah
alpaca guy that
yeah.
died. Yeah.
So like he killed him because like he's my true friend and whatever like that like whatever fucking twisted way that like he decided
That was a
to
good way
like
to do
spin
that.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that was definitely like a good way to spin it because I was like, oh okay, I guess like in his own like twisted world like that's what he thinks happened, but like he just fucking hate him. um
Yeah.
and then like the whole like finale with like sort of like Legoshi being like, I'm not gonna eat meat, and then Louis like,
Yeah.
I have this thing on my foot, please get rid of it, and then he ate the foot, and then he became like Super Saiyan, and
Yeah.
then like they barely fight for a bit, and then the bear goes to prison. I'm like, so the point of eating his foot was to just get rid of it and like not really have like the big climactic fight or whatever. I don't know. I just felt like the ending was a little all over the place, the final episode.
Yeah.
But the snake lady, she was a interesting character, but like you said, they sort of just ditch her like
Yeah.
instantly. But yeah, I mean, overall, I liked season two. It's definitely not as good as season one. I 100% wanted to watch season one again just to like get a refresher to see, if it was just, recency bias or whatever the case was. But, I'm sure that season two, it's still good. It's just that it's not, the peak of what season one was, which was, a sort of mystery slice of life with some action stuff toward the end. So,
Yeah, definitely the last bit was like the jump the shark moment for this
mm-hmm.
season, especially when the season spent half of the time with Legoshi being like, I'm not gonna eat meat because that's like
Yeah.
the ultimate way a carnivore could be like friends with herbivores or whatever. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Like, oh, his jaw's getting weaker. I'm like, oh, that means like he's like legs and like arms are gonna get stronger or something, right? Like I don't know. Like I thought that's was just gonna play a role in it, but no, he kind of the ultimate weapon to win against this bear, which didn't even really matter because the police just arrested him anyway, was eating meat. I'm like, wait, so what was the point of the whole middle of the season then of him not eating meat and stuff? Yeah, I feel like Legoshi's arc was kind of just weird and like kind of just contradicts itself. I think it fits Louis' arc though. Like I think Louis' character is probably my favorite right now in terms of how they did everything. You know, like I really like his whole relationship with the lions and stuff, and how he always wants to be like stronger, and how he resents like, well, he both resents and respects carnivores and stuff. Like he wants that power, but like as a herbivore and stuff. And I think it was a good end to his storyline for his like to be eaten, because that was like a reminder that he was like a slave in the black market or something to be eaten as meat or whatever.
Which was low key, sort of just like, you know, thrown in there at the end, in my opinion.
That's a good point. But like, I feel like that was like, okay, I can see that it fits for his character, but I don't think it really fits for Legacy's character to end like that. Also, just not to say again, I don't really like doing the whole cinema sins thing, like, oh, they should have done this, beep. But since the show since the show is structured, at least the first season was a lot more grounded. Like Legacy is like just a teenager, right? Like in high school, he's not like Deku where he has like powers and shit. Like he feels like, yeah, he's a big old wolf, but he's still a teenager. I'm like, after he got his ass kicked by the bear the first time, he just kind of ran away. I'm like, you should have called the police or tell the snake lady, but you didn't. And like, I'm not a big fan of doing that. Like, I know it's kind of dumb to nitpick on stuff like that, but I don't know. I feel like since the show feels a little more grounded, I know they're all animal people, but still, you get what I was saying. Like, it just feels just call. Even Louis makes a joke like, call the fucking police. Like he says that towards the bar scene when they were both together. I'm like, yeah, why don't you just call the police? But yeah, I don't know. Overall, I thought it was still good. I still enjoyed it a lot, but there's definitely a lot of inconsistencies that makes me a little like sus about it. And I think just the shift of the show being a little more shonen-y than what it was originally was is kind of like weird. But yeah, that's just me. And I'm coming from someone that mostly likes action shows opposed to like slice of life romance stuff. Like that's not usually what I watch, but I think the first season did it really well. So I was kind of looking forward to see how they continue that in the second season. But you know, that didn't really happen as much because again, Haru was barely in it. But yeah, I don't know. It just kind of left me scratching my head a little more than I like hoped it would. But I mean, overall, it was still great. But well, good. Hopefully, season 3 kind of fixes some things. But yeah, it was all right.
Yeah, this second season definitely makes me want to actually like read the manga. You know, one of these days, because I like buying manga. You know, manga is a somewhat expensive hobby, but you know, I agree with most of what you said. You know, Legoshi's character, most of it was pretty much him being like, I want to be Batman or some shit. And then like he just decides to eat meat at the end because he had to. But yeah, it just felt a little rushed, a little inconsistent. But overall, I enjoyed for what it was, you know, seeing these characters again in sort of the world of Beastars and the sort of politics between herbivores and omnivores. That was still a very much of a driving factor within the show, and I very much liked it. So
yeah, I still really enjoy that aspect of the show a lot, and I kind of really like the sort of dynamic between Legoshi and the bear. I forget what the bear's name is. Riz, I think his name was.
Yeah.
Where if Legoshi ate Haru when they first met, it was kind of gonna be in that sort of situation where he's like, oh, like I loved her, so like I ate her, and it's like this weird twisted view of it. But he kind of stopped himself from doing that, while Riz didn't do that. He kind of just went through with it. It's kind of, I don't know, I think that's a cool dynamic. Like, oh, that's what would have happened to Legoshi if he actually ate Haru during the first bit. So I thought that was pretty neat. It also ties in with the opening in the first one, because like Legoshi's like dancing and shit with Haru, but that's like sort of just what he's thinking, and then it's like, oh no, that's you kind of ate her in the opening of the first. I thought that was kind of a cool thing to look back on, but yeah, overall it was still good, and I still recommend the show a lot, but definitely just keep your expectations in check when the season 2 happens, because it kind of does do a bit of a shift in what it is. So yeah.
All right, so now let's talk about Marvel's What If, the first 2 episodes. Once again, spoilers, because these are on Disney Plus, and they're very quick episodes. You know, they're like 30 minutes long or so. So the first episode, Captain Carter, I thought that this one was pretty much like a given as in terms of like a episode 1, sort of to get people into the series and the show itself. And animation wise, you know, it is sort of CG animated with a cell shaded look, which is fine by me. I don't mind CG animation, especially when it is cell shaded and done well. But yeah, I think that between both of the episodes, you could really see how they sort of like twist the story around, but also bringing it back and seeing the parallels between the original stories.
Yeah.
If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So,
no, I got it. Yeah.
But yeah, go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say mostly for the first one, it feels like that. Like obviously you have the differences with, her being Captain America or Captain British or whatever, instead of Steve Rogers, but it mostly followed the same plot of the first movie of Captain America. Obviously it changes things, but like it still kind of follows the set thing. I think the second episode, like I think the first episode was a good warm up. Like, oh, this is what this series is really going to be about, and like here we go. I think the second episode does it even crazier. It's like, okay, you get the concept, so we're going to go pretty crazy with it. So I just really like the second episode a little more because I think it goes a little crazier with its concept of what if. But again, I think the first episode, not to jump to the second episode yet, I think the first episode does a good job sort of like showing what the series is like gonna do and stuff. And I thought it was pretty interesting, having her be Captain America and Steve Rogers basically piloting an Iron Man suit. I think that was pretty neat. And again, just seeing the role reversal where she gets like not frozen, but she gets like I guess sucked by a interdimensional octopus thing, and then obviously that she's like in the future later. So
Yeah.
I thought all that stuff was pretty neat. So.
But yeah, I still like the parallels that they did between the first Captain America movie and this episode, just because, as like a Marvel nerd and a Marvel nut, like if you know the original movie and this episode, you can see the parallels between. Okay, now I remember what my goddamn point was, because she's a female and this is like the olden times. You can see how like she struggles with that, and I'm like, throw some politics in there and it's appropriate, I'm in, because that definitely made sense for the context and the sort of situation that they were in. And she was like, if I didn't hop in there, it would have been thrown away anyways. And like the guy was like, well, it was thrown away because it was put into you. I was like, wow, fucking asshole, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it fits the timeline, so it doesn't like, the women were really respected in like the 40s or 30s. So I think it was a good way to like show like like she's like start fighting not even the Nazis but fighting asshole people like him within her own country. So I thought that was a pretty cool thing as well. And having Steve Rogers be like he has this strong like mommy GF to help him out.
Yeah,
I don't know why I found that like kind of endearing.
I mean, I guess, because Steve Rogers is still that, little boy from Brooklyn, and now she's like buff and taller and shit. Like that
dude,
shit.
I'm like, hell yeah, dude.
That shit does look a little funny. But Steve Rogers is still Steve Rogers. He still has that big heart. He still wants to do what's right, do what's good.
I like that it didn't throw Steve Rogers to the side either. Like he's like a really good supporting character to her. I thought that was pretty cute as well. And both of them have their moments to shine. Obviously she like kicks ass because she's like killing everyone, like throwing her shield around. About what you expect from someone that's Captain America, basically. And they basically just kind of go through like the first movie, like they have the whole train scene, but like Steve Rogers, quote unquote, like sacrifice himself, but you find him later. Then they go to like the Hydra castle, then things get weird, where they have like again this weird like alien monster that got summoned by the Tesseract. I'm like, okay. And Red Skull kind of just got fucked. So
yeah, and they sort of make that sacrifice moment within that portal, and then we see her in the future with like the war's over and all of this other stuff, which was pretty cool to see on how that all wrapped up, just like how it did within Captain America 1. But yeah, like you said, overall episode 1 was a pretty good way to introduce people into the Marvel What If shows, because I think Captain Carter, like what if Peggy Carter got the serum instead of Steve Rogers, is like one of the most common sort of like what if scenarios that people sort of think of. So
yeah, but the second episode, I feel like they go a little more balls off the wall with it. So T'Challa being like Star-Lord, I think is really neat, because it really changes what Star-Lord's character even is. Because what's his face, Quill, like he's not really the smartest guy ever. He's not really confident and stuff. But this one, you get like a really competent Star-Lord, and it is just pretty cool to see. Like he's a lot more smooth. Like he kind of knows what he's doing and stuff. He sticks with Yondu, and like he makes Yondu sort of like a good guy from the start instead of like. I kind of forgot what happens in the first guard, but I know he kind of just like Star-Lord kind of just abandons him, right? And then like they don't meet up to
Yeah,
like
they sort of like
Guardians
go
2.
their own ways.
Yeah, they go their own ways, right? Yeah, in this one, he kind of like convinces Yondu to just be like Robin Hood, where he just, steal from the rich, give to the poor. So I thought that was a pretty cool dynamic in general, because, you're not gonna see Groot or you see Drax, but like he's doing something else now. He's just a bartender. So I thought that was pretty neat, because you already see a huge difference of the chemistry of just the Guardians, I guess, because it's not really the Guardians anymore. And obviously you see other characters in like sort of like the space realm of stuff. So like Nebula is like, she's not all crazy and stuff. Like she's kind of just like, kind of acts like Black Widow a bit, where she's like really like double, triple agents and stuff. And then probably the best thing is you see just like Thanos just chilling.
Thanos
like,
just chilling.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like just stand like, oh, like yeah, but the snap thing, that was not really a good plan. It was genocide, but not really. I really like that, because just having Thanos on like the good side and no one really questions it is like, I think that's a pretty cool way. You just see a lot of changes just to the formula of like Guardians in general. I just thought I went a little crazier with it, and that's why I really enjoyed this episode more than the first one, just because I'm like, okay, now I can see what they're really doing, like going crazy like this. So
Yeah.
but what did you think?
Yeah. T'Challa's Star-Lord was definitely something that I did not have on this sort of bingo board for Marvel's What If, but hey, we're here. Chadwick Boseman's last sort of role as the character, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we definitely get to see how Star-Lord and T'Challa are different, or yeah, the original Star-Lord and the new Star-Lord are sort of different from like the very first scene where he's like, oh my God, you're Star-Lord. Like they actually know who Star-Lord is, because, he is the sort of like Robin Hood character where he steals from the rich, gives to the poor. And, the fact that he was able to convince Thanos that, hey, like, this isn't a good plan, bro. Like, you should not do this. And he really convinced him to actually play on his side, which is very interesting and very jarring, obviously. But, that's just how this sort of what if scenario were to happen. I still like on how they were dealing with T'Challa's original home on Wakanda. And he sort of thought that, like, hey, like, my place got wiped because, that's what Michael Rooker's character told me, and it turns out that that's actually not what happened. Yondu actually lied to him. So, you sort of see their heads clash with each other, and now, he sort of has these sort of oasis of the goddamn world to sort of choose what he wants to do, because he could either go back home or he could continue doing what he's doing, and Yondu is still going to be that sort of father-like figure that he's always been to him, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I think that, the fact that Yondu sticks around within this timeline makes sense, because we get to see how he changes and how he evolves from Guardians 1 to Guardians 2. And that's sort of just like sped up here with T'Challa's character and who he is as a person compared to Peter Quill, who's, he's a dumbass, but
Yeah. But essentially, yeah. And I just like how this this show doesn't really, or this episode, this episode doesn't really have any like things to build off on, like no like movie to really back off on. Like again, the Captain Carter was more based on just Captain America 1, but just add her and like some little changes to it. This one I feel like it's really its own thing, so it could just be a little more free with it, which is really cool. And again, I like how they brought in Black Panther's whole like thing with Wakanda, and like he actually did want to like he wanted to explore the stars and stuff, but he still wanted to like go home. He didn't know like his whole like planet wasn't destroyed, because Yondu said that. And the way they wrapped it up was pretty nice as well. Like I wouldn't mind getting more of this, honestly. You combine one of my two favorite MCU stuff being like Black Panther and Guardians, and you get this. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty sick. So yeah, overall I really enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to what if scenarios we're gonna get, because this one was really good. And again, I like the Captain Carter one as well, but I think this one I'm like, yeah, that's sick.
Yeah, I think I lean a little bit more towards Captain Carter, because I just like that it plays safe, and I just love Captain America. Black Panther and Guardians are cool Marvel stuff, but them two mashing together was something that I didn't really expect, but the way that it was executed was still done pretty well. I know that one of the what if scenarios is like a zombie hunter Spider-Man or some shit, so that's going to be very interesting to see in terms of how that's going to play out, because Disney can still do animated Spider-Man stuff, but they can't do live action Spider-Man stuff without Sony. So it's very very tricky legal grounds that they're sort of maneuvering here. But I'm not sure how many episodes this what if series has, but however many more they decide to give us, I'm all for it. It looks good animation wise, like I said, with the cell shaded look, and it all sort of feels like the MCU still, which is a good or bad thing depending on how you look at it. So.
Yep. Yeah, I'm looking forward to more, and yeah, I can't wait for it.
All right, so last thing we got to talk about is the Suicide Squad by James Gunn. So this was a movie that I have been slightly looking forward to because, it is James Gunn. And we're going to talk about spoilers once again because it is available on HBO Max. So if you want to watch it, you can watch it on there for however much longer it's going to be on there because these are sort of like limited releases, just like with like Wonder Woman, Godzilla, Mortal Kombat, etc. So spoilers will be discussed for the Suicide Squad by James Gunn. So what do you think, Damien? Because I've seen this 2.5 times, if that makes any sense, which I'll explain later.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it a lot. It kind of like when I think of James Gunn and like what he could do with Suicide Squad, it's kind of what I was thinking would happen anyway. Definitely like the humor is there. Obviously, it's really violent because it's rated R, and Suicide Squad is kind of what I would think. And yeah, I think it's just structured a lot better than the original, or I guess the first Suicide Squad movie, which I actually did watch in theaters, and I didn't hate it as much as other people did, but I could definitely tell it was like this could be done better, and I think it has been done better. I think he did a good job giving most of the characters some really good personalities. I think the humor was pretty good most of the time. The action was good. I just think it was, he brought his flair to it, and he did it really well. It just felt like Guardians, but with Suicide Squad. I think he did a good job with it. I guess he's just really good with, sort of like groups of heroes that are stupid and they're doing stuff. So, yeah, overall, I liked it a lot.
Yeah, James Gunn's very good at sort of writing when they're writing characters when there's like a lot of them and they're all like goofy and sort of unique in their own ways. So like you rarely see that within the first scene when they're on the plane with what's his name's character, the fucking Blackguard or whatever. He's like, is this thing a dog? I was like, no fucking way. And then, is it a werewolf and shit? Like that whole like interaction there, you really does like show you that like, hey, this is a James Gunn movie, because if anyone else were to direct this movie, they definitely would not have the same flair, the same charm, the same sort of, I guess, like charisma within that sort of scene. And with all of these characters, you really do get a decent amount of time with them where you get to see their characters sort of shine. Most of them, anyways. Some of them die instantly within the first scene, which
I kind of expected.
Fine.
I expected that like Deadpool 2 gag, where like I think this first scene, I think everybody is gonna die, and then they all die. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds right. The only person that sound like, no, Captain Boomerang, no.
Yeah, definitely. Seeing all of them die within the beginning, I was like, that was probably expected, because no way this movie's budget would have been able to handle all of those, I guess, anti-heroes within this one sort of movie. And I'm glad that we only got like, I guess, a team and a B team sort of thing. But yeah, I really liked Idris Elba's character, and even John Cena's character.
Yeah.
Anytime I see John Cena on screen, I'm always laughing because it's fucking John Cena. But his character,
John Cena,
yeah, and like his character and who he is, his whole arc and his sort of like twisted way of how peace is supposed to be made. You really do get to see that, especially with the whole Rick Flag fight, which Rick Flag, my man's just a soldier. He's just trying to do what he thinks is right. I don't know his full backstory, because all we know is that, he's supposed to lead this Suicide Squad team, and, he just got caught up within the wrong sort of team or whatever, and shit happens. I definitely liked all of the interactions between the characters, Idris Elba's team, seeing them interact with one another and sort of how they're all like twisted in their own ways. The Ratcatcher too, and the goddamn shark, who's voiced by Arnold Schwarzenegger, I believe.
Really? Oh my God.
I believe so. Yeah, like I'm not entirely sure, but the shark, Narwhal, or whatever the fuck his name is, he was fucking hilarious. Every single time he popped up, it's literally because he's a goddamn CG shark who's just walking around. So
it's really funny.
Yeah, I mean, just like overall, like the reason why I watched this 2.5 times technically is because the first time I watched it, it was at home on my PS5. I watched like the first hour, and then I had to go watch TSM versus Envy Valorant. So I was like, fuck it, I'll just stop it here, and then I'll watch the rest later. And then movie night with the boys happened, so then they wanted to watch it, so I was like, all right, I'll just watch the rest with them, and watched it with them. And then the second time I watched it fully was in theaters, just to get like that movie theater experience, despite me knowing exactly everything that was going to happen. It was still fun. It was still a enjoyable ride to see it all the way through within theaters. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure if there's anything wrong with this movie, as far as I could tell. If I could like really think of any, do you have any problems with it?
Not really, honestly. Like I think for the most part it was really good. Like I think like the mission they had to do was really like pretty solid. Obviously it gets wacky towards the end, but like you kind of expect that. It's not like I don't know if you watched the original Suicide Squad
I
movie.
did not.
You didn't? Okay. So the original one I felt like basically is this but way worse because I feel like a lot of characters really like just didn't really care about a lot of them. A lot like some of them try to shoehorn some backstory into there, but it really wasn't like that great. Like I think they did like a pretty good job of Ratcatcher and Bloodspot, the what's his face? What's his actor's
Idris
name
Elba's
again?
character?
Yeah, his character. I think they did a good job making you care about him as well. Even like John Cena, like his whole thing is he's just kind of funny, so that's pretty good. And King Shark is just like also a funny character. The original Suicide Squad we didn't have any of that. Like the only one you really care about was like Harley Quinn because she's Harley Quinn, and Will Smith, right? Will Smith, Deadshot or whatever. Like those two were the only one I really cared about. In this movie I kind of cared about like a lot more people, which was nice. And the mission they want to do was pretty straightforward, like just destroy this like research facility and like kill the giant monster I guess inside. In the original one it was just a lot more dumb. So yeah, I think all of it was structured really well. Again, I think the jokes are really good. Like I already said, the characters are a lot better than the original movie. And even though the cast was kind of big, like it wasn't too much. It was basically like Guardian size, like of how much characters that were like I guess main characters. So I felt like everyone again had their time to shine. I actually really like Ratcatcher, which I didn't expect. I'm like, okay, I guess I like this character now. So yeah, I think most of it was like very good. I can't really think of too much wrong with it, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I know that some people were complaining about like the pacing, sort of like it starts off with like this big action scene and then it kind of like slows down with the whole like, trying to introduce Idris Elba's team.
Yeah.
Which I can understand, but that's obviously like very much needed for the rest of the movies to sort of play out and you understand these characters and their sort of backstory. But yeah, overall, I think that every single character had their moment to shine, whether they made it to the end or not. That is, up for, whatever the hell happened in the movie. But I really enjoyed this movie and I am very much a James Gunn stan now because he obviously I only knew his work within Guardians, but now that I see him do pretty much a very similar thing with Suicide Squad, and I am just very much sold on, whatever movie he decides to direct next that has a big ass cast, I'm probably going to watch it because I'm sure that it's going to be a good movie, a good time anyway. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, Harley Quinn's character, I'm not exactly sure if this is like a different alternate universe Harley Quinn or if this is going to be the one that is from Birds of Prey or some shit. I don't even know. DC's doing their whole like multiverse thing. So, this version of Harley E. Quinn was great because it played into her being a fucking dumbass, but also played into her being a goddamn psychopath sort of thing, So I really did like Margot Robbie within the role once again. And, just overall, like everything about this movie, the humor, the action sequences, the story, the structure, I just overall really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, like you said, I think Harley Quinn's character is also very good. I mean, I kind of just see her as Harley Quinn now. Like, she's kind of just like, yeah, I don't know who else could just play this character as well as she can now, so I'm pretty okay with that. Yeah, I think all the casting was really good in general. I had a point. Oh, like, yeah, with James Gunn, I think I still prefer Guardians 1 over this, but I think this is probably my second favorite one of his movies. I know he helped a lot with like Infinity War, like because the first half of Infinity War is basically like Guardians like 2.5, so like that kind of like helps out because I love Infinity War, and I know he had a big hand in helping with that movie as well. So yeah, basically this man is really good at what he does, and if he makes a sequel to this movie, which I kind of hope he does, I'll be super down with it because I think this is DC is always really inconsistent with the movies, but when they hit it pretty well, and I think this is one of those big hits for me. So yeah, really looking forward to hopefully a sequel to this movie, and basically whatever James Gunn does next, which is I guess Guardians 3, right? So yeah. really looking forward to both of their futures, I guess.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are gonna make the argument that like, this movie is really good because like DC didn't really like touch it as much. Like there wasn't a lot of like studio hindrance because I believe the original Suicide Squad, that one, they wanted something a little different from what the director gave them, so they sort of like chopped some stuff up and like did some things differently from what the original cut was, which is why there's like a released the Ayer cut or some shit like that out there, which whether that'll happen or not, who the fuck knows, because the Snyder cut got released. So, but yeah, I think that this movie is really good just because it was all James Gunn and really they didn't really touch anything outside of, just giving him these characters and giving him, the free will to do what he wants with it, which, it definitely shows with the style and the way that he directed the movie. So.
Yeah, that's all DC gotta do. Just stay out of it. Just let the people do the movies they want to do. Like that's why like Joker was really good. Shazam was really good. This movie was really good. So just like let people do what they want. That not all DC stuff has to be like this really like annoying gritty stuff. Like, I know Joker was, but like I think that one did it well. Like this movie was just wacky fun, and I really liked it a lot. So yeah, really looking forward to if he does do a sequel, I'll be like really happy about that.
All right. So is there anything else you would like to add, good sir?
No, I think that's everything.
All right. So thank you guys for listening to the Travis Damian Podcast once again. We will see you guys 2 weeks from now with another episode.
See ya.